Hello
Good
and
morning.
welcome. Good morning. Good morning, Tammy. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm great and very excited to have an amazing guest. He's a returning guest because he's been with us a couple of times. Our dear Michael
Yes.
Pope. How are you, Michael? Welcome.
I am doing wonderful, Lori and Tammy. Thank you so much for bringing me back to your show. Happy to be here.
Of course. You've always been a wonderful guest, and we love having you on here. But today we're going to go a little different route because Michael's always been here teaching on like Facebook and all the stuff he's done, but we want to learn about him. So if you guys have any questions, I want you to ask them. And thanks for being here. Nice to see you, Trish. And Michael, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, how you've gotten to where you're at. Let's go for it.
Absolutely. So that's a long journey because I turned 50 this past year, just so you know. It's a long journey. But hey, everybody, I am Michael Pope. I was born in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I've been living in Ohio, the Cincinnati area, since I was, I think, 21. So 20, 27, 28 years now. And it's been an amazing journey just being here in the Ohio area. So a little bit about me. So I went to school at North Carolina A&T, majored in computer science. And when I graduated in 1997, I graduated as a natural introvert, terrified of public speaking, low self-image, as and someone who never saw themselves as a leader growing up. And so that's just kind of where I started. And of course, I've transformed since then with learning public speaking and learning leadership and really embracing personal development to help me grow to become a speaker, leader, trainer that I am today.
Wow. I can't imagine you as an introvert.
Yeah, and I'm still an introvert. Right? You could
Yeah,
be in a room
but then
full of
at this,
strangers. The introvert is there. However, like I told someone recently, I am a confident introvert because I understand the power of my voice, so I'm willing to speak up more now.
so
I
I,
totally
I,
understand.
I do too.
I put me on a stage and I'll speak to 1,000 people. Put me on a
Yes.
stage here, virtual stage, and I'll speak also. Put me in a small crowd, little, maybe think of a dinner table where
Hmm.
there's a banquet and I'm sitting there. I want to just hide. It's weird, but I totally understand it. I don't do small talk well. I go deep. So maybe that's why, I don't know if you relate, Michael, but
Yes.
that's why I am like deep. If I'm teaching something on stage, I just believe it and I have so much conviction about what I'm talking about. Like you said, like I feel confidently introvert. But then when I want to share, I share with my heart. And that's also what I want in a one-on-one setting or smaller intimate setting. That's why Tammy and I really want to do those retreats in small groups because there's power in that intimacy and to influence and to hear everybody that's in there. But I don't know. So when was it that you discovered and decided? Because I'm assuming, I'm thinking it was a choice you made, or maybe you had coaches that saw the potential in you and encouraged you, and then you started to believe it yourself. Like to build this confidence. How and when in this journey you realized there was something there?
Yeah, so I'll go back to when I was, let me see, I was 20, I think I was either 20 or 21. And I was at my it was yeah, so it was 20. So I was at my grandpa Joe's funeral and I was sitting on the front row and my grandpa Joe was my hero. I mean, it's somebody who I looked up to. He was the father figure I needed when and I really needed one. And I was at his funeral and they were asking people to come up and share how he had impacted them. And I remember sitting there and I was thinking the role of my grandfather. However, I was paralyzed by fear. So even though I had words in my head and that I wanted to share about my grandfather, especially hearing other people talk about things he had done for them and how he had impacted them, but I let fear keep me in my seat. And I was completely paralyzed. And for years, that kind of haunted me a little bit of anytime someone would ask me to speak or even speak up in a meeting, I found myself holding back. And I started jumping into personal development. So I had some mentors along the way, and they had introduced me to a few personal development books. And I started reading and gaining more confidence in myself. And then one day I was listening to an audio cassette, so old school, right? Old cassette. And it was Brian Tracy, and he was talking about being more confident. So I had purchased his confidence program. And one of the things he said on there, where he said, if you want to be a more confident speaker, he said, join an organization like Toastmasters and learn how to overcome your fear of public speaking. So I had heard of Toastmasters before, but never really participated in it. So I immediately reached out, joined a Toastmasters club, and that was really the journey. I gave my first speech in the summer of 2003, absolutely terrified. However, I found a mentor who really guided me and showed me how to study public speaking and how to work on
Mm.
myself. And that really just started opening up the doors for me of learning how to use my voice, but then also getting excited about really sharing my voice and understanding the power that we have in our voice.
That's amazing. I've been exactly where you said, it's like how many times in the past where, like you said, you had that head voice, like, you want to get up there, but then you don't because you're like terrified in ways.
Yes.
Or, like Lori said, sometimes different meetings, different groups I'm fine with. Other groups, like I remember, it was only like 5 years. No, I guess it's been like 7 years ago. We did an art gala, and somebody else was supposed to be doing the speaking, and all of a sudden they throw it on me with no prep, nothing, and I'm just like, what? Because I'd been kind of out of that circle of talking a lot, and so then it was like, there's a lot of people here. What am I going to say? I just like froze. The words just like left me.
Hmm.
So, but it's funny because a lot of people always say, "Oh, you have to be an extrovert to get out there," but you don't. And I love that you're bringing that up because all of us, I think, have that little times where we're the extrovert and times where the introvert. I mean,
Hmm.
there's times I don't want to leave my place and I just want to hang out with people like Lori. You just have fun. And then other times I love going to church. Like I did Saturday night, we went and watched Jeremy Camp at a concert.
Oh.
You're there celebrating and having a great time. So I love the fact that you're bringing that up because I think there's so many people out there that are introverted.
And I love the fact that you say confidence, and also it has to do with leadership. An example I'm gonna share is like we went to a huge event this weekend. It's what we call general conference, and I was at the venue. It's broadcast around the world, but I attended the venue in Salt Lake City. And once an event is ends, like it ends, the event ended at the time, people it's a huge conference. It's a huge convention center. It's huge. And people just say hello to each other and you're stuck. You cannot go left, right. You cannot move forward and you get stuck. You can't imagine, right? And maybe you have been in this situation, like you were saying, Tammy, at a concert or something. Everybody was just quietly waiting when there's people that could move so that you can go. If there's an emergency, if somebody has to go to the restroom, I'm like, come on, people, we have to get this flowing. So I'm like, and security people weren't doing anything, or there
Mm.
were not people around. And I started saying, excuse me, excuse me. And with my body, I started just moving forward and saying, excuse me, as if I was the security person or whatever. But I'm like,
Yeah, take
leadership also.
charge.
Yes, like people at the airport. I've been traveling a lot in the past couple of weeks, and one airport person showed us that there was a line, yeah, how you need to security, right? You need to take your
Mm.
shoes off, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, wow, that machine there was hidden. Like we didn't know. And I'm like, wow, how did they expect us to know? I told the lady in front of me, and she's like, well, me, I'm just used to people screaming and yelling at me, what to do. And I'm like, no, that's not how you need to live life either. Like with people screaming at you what to do. And also, you need to be able to show that. I don't know, leadership sometimes in some situations. I don't know if I am making sense, but I hope you guys get it that when you need to step up and show up,
Sorry, you had that experience. No, ours was just like being at church normally because we have several thousand people there. So it's not a big deal. And we do have high security. So
but do you need to say sometimes, excuse me, or security
not
does their
usually
job?
everybody's
Nowhere to go.
I think you definitely
everybody,
have to be willing
yeah,
to
and
speak up,
everybody's
right?
usually polite, or I just
Mhm.
take charge and like, oh, hey, go this way.
Yeah.
I try to help people out. It's like if I see somebody needs help or try to find out, okay, what's blocking this, I try to pitch in there. So, but Michael, let's go on and share more of your journey here of the being so courageous. So stepping out of your comfort zone there.
You joined Toastmasters and that was it, huh? That was the beginning of everything. The rest is history.
Yeah, so I joined Toastmasters in 2003, and I'm still a member of Toastmasters, still an active member of Toastmasters, because now I get an opportunity to really give back to that organization and continue to work on my skills. I've learned that as soon as I stop working in a certain area, then, either you're growing or you're dying, really. So I want to make sure that I'm continually growing as a public speaker or communicator effectively. So Toastmasters really helped. And then for me, I got to a point in Toastmasters where I was speaking on a regular basis, and people kept saying, "Hey, Michael, you're giving this powerful 45-minute talk. You should be going out and getting paid for talks like this." I had multiple people tell me that, and so in 2019, I heard about the John Maxwell team, and so I reached out to the John Maxwell team to find out what that process looks like as far as become an actual certified speaker, trainer, coach through their program. And I joined the Maxwell team in 2019. And then I was planning to be certified in 2020. Then, of course, the world changed with COVID. And, so everything kind of changed. However, it actually opened up doors for me because my background is in technology. I'm a software developer by trade. And going into the coaching training industry in 2020 was actually great because I already understood technology. And so it was natural for me. I knew how to speak on camera and do all the technical things involved with it. So it really started opening up doors, and organizations started valuing virtual speakers. So that really helped to, like I said, just open up doors for me in the area of, leadership, communication, personal growth, and all of that.
So
And
a
so it's
quick
been a blast.
question, just for
Yes.
the get, so for people that don't know what Toastmasters is, could you
Yes.
explain that a little bit, please?
Absolutely. So Toastmasters is a 100-year organization as of this month, actually. But it's a communication, it's the world's largest communication and leadership organization. And what they do is they specialize on taking people who are really, regardless of where you are in your communication skills, but taking you to that next level. And they typically have either weekly meetings or some clubs meet twice a month or once a week, just depends on the organization. But they have a curriculum that you can go through to help you improve your communication and leadership skills and lots of opportunity. And it's an environment where it's safe to practice a presentation or practice a story and receive really good feedback.
And then are there chapters around the US and other nations
Yes,
or
around the world. Yes,
around
so
the
it's
world?
literally
Yeah.
around the world.
And they can
Yeah.
just, people that are watching right now that are interested and want to take their speaking skills and leadership skills to the next level can just go to Google Toastmasters and
Yeah,
join
if you
the
just go to
nearest branch.
yeah,
Mhm.
they just go to toastmasters.org and you can do a find a club and you put in your zip code and you'll be like, oh wow, there's dozens of clubs near me.
Okay, great.
And because of COVID, a lot of clubs still meet virtually or they have hybrid where there's an in-person section and also a virtual session. It opened up a lot of doors doing that as well because I was able to start attending Toastmasters meetings all around the world and embrace different cultures and have this different audience to speak to. So that was pretty cool.
And then
So now, go ahead,
you,
Lauren.
I'm sorry. Yeah, so you said something about you giving back. So are you
Yes.
now training or helping people that are beginning at Toastmasters?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I've been doing that for years. I actually started my first ever 45-minute training session was at a Toastmasters event training leaders. So my mentor came to me and she said, "Hey, Michael, you're great at doing evaluations. Will you teach the session on evaluate to motivate?" I did that and I liked it. And I started doing more and more 45-minute type training. And so now for my local district here, which consists of three different states, I do trainings 2 or 3 times a year within inside my district, but also for other Toastmasters districts where I can give back and either speak at like an open house event for them or just a general training session. And I've even done Canva for Toastmasters as well. So Canva training for Toastmasters as well. And yeah, just it's an opportunity to give back. And
So,
Toastmasters is very inexpensive to join. I'll tell people like it's like $60 every 6 months to be a member of Toastmasters. So it's a no-brainer from a cost perspective, but the value you get out of it is absolutely amazing.
that's awesome. So, how did you choose John Maxwell?
So the first leadership book I ever read was from John Maxwell. So I had a mentor who introduced me to personal development, and he had been giving me books and audio cassettes, believe it or not, right? So cassette tapes and all that. And the first leadership book I read was Developing the Leader Within You. It was John Maxwell's 1.0 version of that book, Developing the Leader Within You. And in that book, John Maxwell let me know. He said, he said leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And what that means is that, essentially I was like he was talking to me, right? So it's like Michael, you are a leader right where you are, right? Because you have the ability to influence. So you can be a leader in your own household, you're a leader at your job, you're a leader in your church, right? So because anywhere we have influence, we are quote unquote a leader. Now it's up to us to determine whether that's going to be a good leader or a bad leader,
Right.
right? Because let's face it, I mean, Hitler was an effective leader, but he was a bad, right? He was an effective leader in terms of the leadership standards because he had people follow him, a huge influence. However, it was a negative influence. So we have to keep that in mind. But when I read that book from John Maxwell, I started reading more of his books and really learning from him. But he just opened up the door to let me know that, hey, Michael, right where you are capable of being a leader because you have the ability to influence people. And it's something that I'm constantly reminding my sons, and my wife and I have 3 sons, remind them of their influence potential and kind of like just keeping that awareness for them.
Definitely a great message from the book. One of the impactful books from Maxwell is in my life is Failing Forward.
Oh,
I love
yes. I
that
love
book,
that.
Failing
Hmm.
Forward, because if you don't take risks, if you don't fail, how are you going to learn and grow, basically? And I tell that a lot to my kids. So he is definitely a leader, right? If he's influenced us that much.
Yes.
Um, I have a very interesting question, Michael, because you shared that you missed out on the opportunity to share about your grandfather that influenced
Yes.
you so much. In your keynotes or whenever you have presented, have you been able to at least share about your grandfather to kind of make up for that
Oh,
opportunity?
absolutely. Absolutely. I
So
use it
good.
a lot. So I had an opportunity to speak on a Maxwell stage. So in person, it was probably 1,500 or so people in the room. And then there was people watching virtually as well. So I don't know how many people were watching it. But I had an opportunity to speak on stage and I shared a little bit about my grandpa Joe's story of
Good.
kind of how he had impacted me. And even in Toastmasters, I've shared about his story. So a lot of people have heard the Grandpa Joe story just because it really impacted me. And I like to get the message out to people.
Can you
Good.
give us a short version of the grandpa story?
Yeah, yeah,
Now, since I'm
absolutely.
intrigued now.
Absolutely, right? So I mean, just growing up, my Grandpa Joe was my hero. And as I mentioned before, he was my father figure and really just a person who influenced me the most. But when I was 8 years old, the unthinkable happened, and my grandpa Joe got sick, and they had to amputate his legs below the knee. And despite the pain of those heavy prosthetics and everything he had to deal with, he still spent the majority of his days caring for my grandmother, and she was paralyzed on one side of her body. I'll never forget, Grandpa Joe crawling over to grandma and patiently feeding and caring for her, always with a smile on his face. And of course, me being an 8-year-old, I thought, Grandpa, what are you doing? Stay in bed. Let the nurses care for her. Like it didn't make sense to me, all the things he did, but he still did it anyway. And I'll never forget, like on the nice days, because you talked about nature. My grandpa Joe loved going outside. So on nice days, he would strap on his heavy prosthetic legs and he would grab his hat and his cane and he would walk around the community looking for ways to impact people. And even though he didn't have legs, he just had his prosthetics, he would drive neighbors around to doctor's appointments and at church. He would
Wow.
even deliver meals and newspapers to some of the sick and shut in the neighborhood. And I mean, he just constantly made an impact. And then when I was 19, my grandpa Joe made me so proud. So I actually keep this on my desk. He received this medal here, the Thomas Jefferson
Wow.
Servant Leadership Award. On the back of it, it says, "In recognition of outstanding public service." And so,
So
and I remember looking at this award for the first time and asking him, "Wow, how can I win an award like that?" And him looking at me and saying, "Mike, it's not about the award. It's
mm,
about the impact." And he said, "You have to make serving others part of who you are." And when he first told me that, I really didn't get it. But later, and unfortunately, it was at his funeral that it really grabbed hold of me, his words, and it made me decide to dedicate my life to serving others. So I'm always looking for ways to add value to other people based on what Grandpa Joe did for me. And that's why I keep this right here on my desk because this is just a constant reminder of me of the kind of man he was and the kind of man I want to make sure that I am. And the beautiful thing about it is, I mean, I've received awards for service and volunteer awards, all type of thing. And like Grandpa said, it's not about the award, but one cool thing for me is a couple of weeks back, somebody came to my wife at church and she said, "Hey, I just want to compliment you on the way you've raised your sons." She said she was talking about how she said, "Whenever I come to kids' church, I never have to open up a door." She said, "I don't even remember the last time I had to open up a door because your kids would just open up the door for me." And she's like, "They're so patient. They wait for me, even if I'm walking slow. They'll hold the door open and greet them properly." And I thought that's amazing because, we never really had to tell them to go, quote unquote, volunteer or serve. But it's just that they've seen my wife and I do it so much that it's just
mhm.
natural for them to say, okay, yeah, we're serving over here like our mom and dad. And it's something they do every single week. But it's just who they are now. But it's because of just the impact that my grandpa Joe had on me.
And now you're impacting your children and leading by example is what I always say. People
Yes.
don't realize it. You're not there. It's not like do as I say. Is people are gonna pay more attention of what you do. It's do as I do or something like that, right?
And that's the
So,
way it works, right? We
mhm.
we learned that when we first had our first child, and he would start mimicking certain things that I did. I'm like, oh wow, yeah, they really are watching.
For good or for bad, right?
Exactly.
So you better realize. So, Michael, this is definitely amazing. Thanks for your impact. Thanks for your example. And I agree with you. I mean, that's such a shiny, lovely medal. And for you to have it there on your desk as a constant reminder. And it's not about the award. There's so many people that not everybody know it's not on the public eye, right? Anonymously create an impact. They don't get an
Hmm.
award, but I think of you, you think of your grandpa Joe. I think of my grandpa Olga. I think of my parents right now that they have their own doctor's appointments and they're taking so many people from their congregation. I'm like, are you their Uber drivers? Come on, what's going on? You have your own doctor's appointments and now you're taking people to doctor's appointments. So it's just like that, people that consecrate their time for others to do service. And now in a situation where we're in our nation, in our world, it's so humbling to hear how many people are helping each other with
Yeah.
these natural disasters and catastrophes, and how instead of waiting for organizations and institutions, just neighbors helping neighbors. Strangers are helping strangers, and yes, institutions get organized and get there eventually, but immediate help and assistance has come from each other, right? We're in a world where there's a lot of negativity and sensationalism in the news and all that. When you look around, and I have traveled, Michael, in the US this year from east to west, basically.
Mm.
I've seen nothing but amazingness and beauty and understanding and patience and love and assistance and good manners.
That's
And
awesome.
so I just want to encourage the audience to, yeah, keep posting and showing up virtually, positive messages, because we need to counteract I don't know, the ugly and negativity that's out there. So thank you for being a part of that and for leading by example and for your children creating already an impact thanks to your grandpa.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
you're welcome.
amazing what our grandparents, if you're blessed to have great grandparents, I had great, wonderful grandparents as well that would always go out and help. But if you think about it, it's those that go out and serve, those are the people you want to hang out with
Yeah.
because they've been through stuff, usually hard stuff, that's made them to where they're so compassionate
Yeah.
and they're encouraging and they're positive. They look for the positive in things. And like you said, Michael, they look for ways to help. And actions speak louder words, but speak louder than words. But when you do both, you speak positive words and then your actions reflect that. That's how we help others. That's how
Hmm.
we're impactful. And it's like you said, it's not about the words ever. It's more about you're not concentrating on getting, if you're concentrating on getting that award, then you're in the wrong. Is I kind of
Exactly.
remember the song from King and Country. Gosh, what is the, without love, you can't just give. You have to, the best gifts are those with love.
Mhm.
So I know I'm saying it wrong right now,
Yeah, I'm
but
trying to remember too because I've heard the song,
Oh
but
yeah,
I
definitely.
know you've heard the song, and I think I even did kind of a quote on it the other day. But anyway, when we're positive, and it's nice. It's like my grandson is just like your son, always opening doors, waiting, and just watching him do that is positive. I love seeing young people. I mean, I hold the door open for others as well. But just because I think we grew up with, okay, this is respect. It's
hmm
showing respect to all these other people when we do that. And where then you see these other people, they just run ahead and it's all about them getting there first or them, they don't care. They let the door slam in somebody else's face. And we don't want to
Yeah,
be
I've
those
seen that
people,
too.
right? I mean, not saying we're perfect, but I love hearing the stories about people being impactful. And your granddad was impactful. I've had some friends that a friend passed away a few years ago, and every single person, that's all they could say was how he was always so positive,
Mm.
always looking for ways to help others. He was just always giving. He would go without just to make sure somebody to put a smile on somebody else's face. I remember him going, he heard that our grandkids had a little farm stand, lemonade stand, and they drove 15 miles out of their way just
Oh,
to go buy lemonade from them because he wanted to
Show
be
support.
positive,
support. Yeah,
you
that's
know?
awesome.
Michael, you've been in our talk show and you have shared your talent as a speaker. And then also you showed, some people can look it up, Canva
Yes.
techniques on how to create your branding and add your colors to Canva. So I love how you mentioned that COVID changed the world and how things became a little bit, more virtual. And now you have been able to speak at virtual stages from around the world. So how is that going, and what are you focusing more on? Are you more of the software engineering and doing graphics and working with Canva? I know you're a Canva's expert,
And that's yep.
and then you like to speak too. So are you meshing all those together, and that's where you're at right now, or what are you doing currently, and how can people find you?
Yeah, so I speak on four main topics now. So I speak on marketing, personal development, leadership and technology. And so it just it depends on the organization. So as an example, I have actually tomorrow I'm speaking at a local networking group in person, and they want me to come in and train them on how to use ChatGPT. And so
Okay.
how they can be more productive in their particular organization for their type of business using ChatGPT. So that's one way that I'm using technology. I've had another company, a large organization, that hired me to come and speak on personal growth. And so I shared about just some concepts for like strategies for growing yourself personally and then really developing the leader within yourself. And I was able to speak on that. So it really just depends on the organization. But if someone is looking for a speaker, you can go to michaelpopetraining.com and learn more about kind of what I do and the topics that I cover and really how I can serve your organization.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank
Awesome.
you.
So, what do you do for when you're getting prepared for a large speech or to help you relax because of anxiety? Give us a little bit more of your day to day.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So a couple things. So leading up to any type of speaking engagement, obviously you got to prepare to talk. And I mean, like that's all the basics. So everybody knows that part, right? You have talks prepared. And my goal is to do the mental preparation. So for me, one is affirmations. So words of affirmations about my ability to speak. So I'll literally either look in the mirror or I'll look in the camera and I'll say something like, Michael, you are an amazing speaker. Your audience loves to hear you. They're excited about hearing what you've got to say. You've got a great message to share and you're excited about doing it. You're going to communicate with passion and authority and they're going to love what you say and really you're going to impact your audience. So I'll do things like that to kind of like just mentally prepare myself for my talk. And then one of the things that I do like the day of the event. So when I show up at a place, especially if I'm speaking in person, but even it works virtually as well. But if I'm speaking in person, then typically what I do is my goal is to make sure that my talk is, I already have my talk down, right? So I don't want to be in my head about my talk the day of the event. You shouldn't have to do that. So when I'm able to show up at the venue, I'm able to go and meet some of the people and really connect with them off stage before I ever get on stage. That's always my goal, if time permits, where I can meet a few people and just kind of find out what they're looking for. So then that way when I deliver, I can deliver like I'm speaking to them, right? So like I'm speaking directly to you, Lori, or directly to you, Tammy, because I've had that conversation with you, and I can adapt my talks to kind of bring you into my talk as I'm doing it, and then we've got that connection. And then something else that I do is just for the audience in general, before I ever take the stage, is I'm sending love to the audience. So I am literally talking about, hey, how much I love the audience and how I'm looking forward to making an impact
Mm.
and really helping them and really just praying that that I am able to that God uses me to speak to them to share their words they need to hear because I don't always
Wow.
know what the struggle they're going through. So there's something that maybe I can share that really adds value to them, then that's my goal, right? Because it's not about me. It's about the message I'm able to deliver at that time. So I want to focus on that.
Oh my
And then
goodness. This is
and
great.
and then one last thing. So then after the presentation, something I learned from my mentor Joseph McClendon is that I need to always he has like a reflection model, right? So you want to celebrate yourself. So I'll ask myself, hey, what did I do? What are some areas that I can improve for the next time? And then I'll make sure that I celebrate myself, right? So either pat myself on the back or to say, hey, Michael, you were amazing. You did a great job. You really impacted people. Take that time to celebrate because it's so important that we take time and really celebrate ourselves every single day.
And what people do, Michael, this is so important, is beat themselves up like, oh, I should have, could have,
Yes.
I would have done this better.
I should have
And
said
no,
that or I should.
uh-huh.
Yeah. Hmm.
Wow,
Okay,
which
I'm
is
guilty of that a lot of
which,
times.
which is
Most, it's,
important
hmm.
to do, but I love that you emphasize more celebrate yourself. You
I
summon
love
the
that.
courage, you summon the courage, you did all that. It's what I call, priming and prepping. And oh my goodness, Michael, one of the steps that I really like is you sending love to the audience.
Yes.
Can you tell us more a little bit about that? Like, um, where did you get that from, and what difference has it made?
Yeah, so Joseph McClendon III, he really he taught me that and really taught a group of people that. And what it does for me, so especially as being a Christian, it makes it easier, right? So I can say a prayer for the audience, of course,
Mhm.
but then also just sometimes like I had one incident where I was in Atlanta and I was kind of behind the stage, but you can like look through the curtain and you can kind of see at the audience. And so I started doing it then. So I was just looking at different people. They couldn't see me, but I was just like, I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. This is going to help you. I'm so looking forward to sharing this message to you. Right. So just doing things like that as I'm looking at the crowd, then that made me feel really good. And of course, nervousness goes away because I know that I'm giving
Mm.
to them, not trying to take something from them. And so it just really helps out to do that.
I,
You
I,
shared
if,
so many golden nuggets here. I hope people have caught everyone because it's incredible. Yeah, thank you.
And let me
thinking,
ask something else to the celebration. Sorry. So the celebration part, you can do it in any area, not just speaking.
Mhm. Yeah.
So my middle child right now is learning how to drive. And so we'll go out and we'll do driving, but then as soon as we finish, before we drive home, like so we right now we're still in the parking lot phase. So we'll be in the parking lot. Once we switch back and I get in the driver's seat or something, or even once he parks the car, I'll ask him, "Hey, so what did you do? What did you do well today?" And so
Mhm.
we'll go through that, and I get him to identify the things that he did well, and then we'll say, "Hey, what are some things that we can improve on for the next time?" And just get him to reflect through that because it's so important just to think about the positive stuff that we do in
Yeah.
any area. Like it just make it a habit.
Absolutely. And sending that love, Michael, going back to that because I'm so impressed. I'm so and grateful that you shared that. Goes back to that, like you and I, and I guess Tammy too, like our styles. Like we're introverts, right? And
Mhm.
speaking in front of a large group, but doing that, I love you, I love you, I love you, brings it down to that one-on-one. Because you're
Yes.
speaking to the audience with how many people are there, but you are also speaking to each of them individually,
Hmm.
and just acknowledging and knowing that it's a huge group you're speaking to, but each of them are listening to you. It turns it into a one-on-one. It turns it into a one-on-one kind of sort of, huh? And that is very good. So, Michael, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
Not
I
that
have a
intent.
question for
Yeah.
him. So,
Another
so
question.
I
Great.
know. Well, of course, this is why we have Michael here because we love having Michael here. Because he's always so giving and helps us. But what I loved what you just said about with his son celebrating those little things. So many times parents forget that. And it's a way we can help others to get there to see positivity in themselves, whether it's our kids, grandkids, or anybody that we know, friend, family, is by encouraging them to let them look at the positive impact that they just did or something
Yeah.
positive. Don't always point out everything that's wrong. It's kind of like if you yell at somebody, if you tell a frog what is it, a fish that they should be able to climb a tree and you're always yelling at them, they're gonna think they're a fish and they should be climbing a tree when actually they shouldn't. But and I know there's a better metaphor for that, but I think you get what I'm saying. So, but encourage each other in ways and being positive like that, sharing that. I love it.
Yeah. And like back to what you were saying, Tammy, right? So like you want to be specific and use proper praise, right? Like you say, you don't lie to someone and say, hey, you can do something
Hmm.
that they really can't do or they shouldn't be doing. But just that proper praise is powerful.
Yeah. Well, Michael, we love having you. Time goes by super fast when we're having fun and when learning great things, nuggets of wisdom from our guests, and you have been amazing.
Thank you.
In our group, there's entrepreneurs, there's survivors that have gone through a lot of adversity, and warriors and creators. What is your all with this, if you sum it up in a couple of statements, what would you tell our audience in terms of showing up and developing leadership with confidence, no matter where they're at in their lives? And there's always a next level. So, what is your invitation and admonishment for our viewers?
Yeah, yeah. So if I had to sum it up, like especially for an entrepreneur, I would say get into the habit of chasing failure and really being willing to fail because a lot of people let the potential of failure stop them before they ever take action, which is why I'm big on speaking on being a doer, taking immediate action. But we've got to, like you talked about before about the book Failing Forward, right? We've got to be willing to fail and learn from it. And but a lot of people are just so afraid of, hey, I might make a mistake or I might fail or it's not going to be perfect. And I say, let that go. Just take action
Mm.
and chase the failure. Take that imperfect action, knowing, hey, I might fail at this. However, I'm going to learn from it and I'm going to improve it the next time, right? And then the next time. So yeah.
So it reminds me of when my girls were learning to skate.
Hmm.
The very first thing they taught them was to fall because otherwise in the back of their mind is that fear they're going to fall. And so whether it was roller skating and ice skating, both coaches were like, no, you have to learn how to fall first before you.
Yes.
Definitely our Tammy froze, but I
Oh,
totally get it. I totally get it because if we learn how to fall, we'll learn how to pick ourselves up. That's so true. Well, I hope our Tammy will come back.
Okay,
You're
I'm
back. You're
here.
back.
Sorry, did you guys hear that?
yeah, we got you.
We got you. We got you. But
Oh,
no,
hey, it was
that's
so
great.
weird, but I want to say we have an incredible group, and I love it that everybody's been posting. Last night it was fun because I was actually outside taking northern light photos of the
Yeah,
skies,
they're
and
amazing.
Ike from our group was taking photos at the same time, so we were like sharing photos back. It was almost like we were in the same skies, out there outside shooting together. So it's always so much fun when we can do things like that together in a positive way. So, and I appreciate you, Michael, so much for making an impact on others. And for teaching your kids to do that. And I appreciate all of those who are out there helping others, whether it's day to day, just in your community, your neighborhood, your church, your school, or you've taken the time to go and help victims back, like in the hurricane zones. We appreciate you. And I know there's a lot of people here that appreciate you. And of course, our prayers are for those that are out there in bad areas. So, anything else, Lori, you want to add?
Thank you. And if you like this information, please like, share, and tell others about it because sharing is caring, like we say. And Michael, thanks for being here one more
Thank
time.
you.
Yeah, thank you. Be sure to visit our website at unlockingfreedominnature.com. And we have a full page there on Michael.
Yep.
So be sure to go there and you'll find his links. So thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here today.
Have a great day, ladies.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You too.